Okay, so just a quick introduction for tonight's meeting. It's a guided tour of the Whiteboard Culture. And I think most of you know that in Agile, one of the big terms or the idea is tacit communications for rapid feedback. Alistair Coburn is one of the people who heavily promoted this idea. He said one of the fastest ways for people to communicate is to work together at a whiteboard. It's also a very efficient way to get information out to people, constantly visible. A very large project that I was leading in Germany, we had written the project all over the place. We had whiteboards everywhere, and we were recording all our ideas on the whiteboard, and all the information was there, the so-called information radiators. What I think is really cool here at Elastic Path, what they've done, is they've taken that one step forward. And I think you'll find this a really interesting and innovative meeting. And so without much further delay, I'd like to introduce Michael Bax, who's the CTO of Elastic Path.
So, workspace. It's basically trying to surround yourself with information. Because we have so much information around us. We have keys, we have drives full of files, we have Jiras, we have other issue tracking systems, we have HR system, we have a lot of systems around, and everything kind of in computer. But all this technical repository of information becomes really big and difficult to find. And we decided that we are really big believers that if most important information is around you, it's much easier way to communicate, get everybody on the same page, and make sure that people actually are consuming this information and processing this and updating this. It's more up to date and really much easier to consume. So what we're going to talk today about is how to use this informative workspace to communicate inside and outside of your team. To help teams self-organize, remember, like Agile is all about self-organizing team. And to self-organize yourself. So some people are quite creative, as I will show in actually using this concept just for their own purposes. Okay, so communicate. Standard things, you probably see it in most of the companies, like your goals, your targets, you probably display more than other people do, but you can probably see it in many other places. So what we have here is our principles, be customer, be open, be remarkable, product principles, our financial goals, our supporters priority, things like that. Other way to communicate goal is in that corner, let me find people. On the wall we have, for each department, for each group, we define what's called your rocks for this quarter. Basically, it's 5 things. Doesn't matter what's happened with the rest, but this you need to make. And people posting them there and then putting some sticker. Okay, I done. And everybody can go and walk in the executive going, okay, that's done. Sometimes communicate dates. Just behind that, there's a board. And what we have here is when staff meetings happen, when somebody's birthdays are, and you need to know these things. And of course, emails going out, but it's also if we just pass by or have lunch in this place, and we'll say, okay, Tom is having my birthday tomorrow. Okay, I'll have it later on. Now a little bit more complex thing is how we communicate status. And one of the things that our executives were trying to achieve is to make everybody in the company to be the customer. So really make customer-driven culture. And idea came out that with this, we introduced this what's called pirate world, where we really show journey of the customer through all stages of sales process. And of course we have Salesforce, we have reports there, we have statuses, we know that, and salespeople looking there, but developers don't. But here, if something's happening with customers moving from like prospect to closer to closure, or customer in troubles, everybody sees. So I have here actually a video of our VP of Marketing created this thing.
Hi, my name is Matt Dion. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Elastic Path. I want to share with you something that we've done that's very exciting. We had an issue in that we wanted everybody in the company to really understand the process that our customers go through before they start looking for our solution and what happens after they become a customer. We had a very technical mindset at the company, a lot of really smart technical people that wrote great product. And as we started to evolve our company, we realized that we really have to start understanding our customers and their business pains and what they needed from us. And so we needed the entire company, regardless of which department they were in, to get into the mindset of the customer. So to do that, we wanted something very public, very visual. So we created, which you can see behind me, what we call the pirate wall. And essentially what we've done is we've taken the life cycle of our customer and we've turned it into this journey, and we painted it on a wall, and I'm going to walk you through that. So the first step over here is stage of the journey is before the customer is even looking at a solution or looking at us for e-commerce. They're not looking yet. They're up there. Then they start looking. They're doing Google searches, reading stuff, going to trade shows, talking to analysts. At some point they come across Elastic Path and they think we might be a good fit for what they're trying to do. So at that point we create a boat. This whole wall was painted with magnetic paint, and so we've made these little boats, and they stick to the wall. The customer becomes a boat when they engage with us and we start having meaningful conversation with them. At each stage along here, there's a definition of what that stage means, and then there's a sort of set of tasks and activities that the various departments in the company need to be doing at this stage. So down here, it's mostly marketing and sales. Then what happens is we'll qualify this company. In this case, it's Sears. We'll move them along to what we call internal champion, and this is where we have found somebody in that organization that really likes our story and believes we are the fit for them. And then more departments get involved at that stage. After that, we go up here to what we call the all hands on deck stage, and this is where we really feel good about this. We've qualified them out. They like us. We like them. We start putting more and more company resources on trying to close the customer at this point. If the customer makes it through that, eventually you see this waterfall. Once you're down the waterfall, you can't go back. This is where the salesperson will commit that deal. So this is essentially our sales pipeline, and the salesperson will commit that deal. That means they very, very large chance that we're going to close that business. So kind of all hands on deck. From there, we go into the negotiation with the customers on the contracts and stuff. We call that T's and C's. From there, we'll hopefully win the business. So we close the deal. Big pot of gold. That's the stage we really like here. But then it doesn't end there. With our customers, because we're very much in partnership with them to have a successful e-commerce business, we follow them from when they, after they buy the software, there tends to be some sort of meeting and kickoff where they then start to implement. And oftentimes our resources are involved in the implementations, so we work with them through to their site launch. This is where their external e-commerce website goes live. And then from there, they hopefully stay up here in Happy Customer Island. Occasionally, as in all businesses, customers will have problems and issues. And to make sure that they don't get down here, down here is bad. We call it Dagobah. For those of you that are Star Wars fans, you know that that's where Yoda lived, and they sent Luke Skywalker to do some training. To make sure our customers don't end up there with Yoda, we start to put the boats, in the danger zone. They're drifting towards this whirlpool that brings them down to Dagobah. So every single person in the company knows which customers are having issues, so that we can react to that, take care of it, and make sure that the boat gets itself back up to the island. So that way, again, we can track from when the customer first starts talking to us all the way through the sales cycle, and then what happens to them when they're a customer of ours through the whole relationship with them. And that's the pirate wall.
How many of you guys have weekly status meetings, like on a project? What do you do after this meeting? Do you send a status email or some wiki page where you post it? What do you usually do? Nothing? Not keeping track at all? It's on the wiki, yeah, one thing. This is product development department status board. Our weekly status meeting somehow called PD board. We started with this board, and basically what we do is saying, okay, name of the project we're working on, this is different teams, like one development team, release engineering, QA, performance, documentation, another development team, product management, and architecture. And we just write what we're working on now and what we want to work on. That's it. So basically, it's a movable board. So we take it for a meeting into my office, update it, and move it into common area where everybody can see it. We're not sending status emails. So it's just, again, different example of how you can communicate. Wrong direction. Another way to communicate, another information to communicate is your standard burn down chart. We also have a lot of small whiteboards around that you can just put in a corner or hang on a cubic wall. So again, everybody can see it. It's usually located close to daily Scrum area, and people can see it. When we moved into this building, you all saw this wall like that separates our reception from development area. This is other side of this wall. So we decided to make it whiteboard from top to bottom. And then we decided, okay, we can probably know what to do this, but what to do here, because it's a normal person cannot actually reach that. So on the very, very top, we put release timelines. Starting from the first version, we just released version 6.2, so we haven't updated yet, but we will. So it shows basically when the releases were done. And I'm a big believer in domain modeling. And one of the principles of Agile domain modeling is display your model public. And we decided, okay, everything that we're going to work on is going to be on this board. So here on the top, in the areas that are difficult to reach, we put models that explain how current application is working, something that we're not changing. But what you see here is something that we are working on, or just finished working. So every time when we start new feature, I basically tell my team, okay, go and take a meter and a half of the board, and if something called information, you can clean it up. And this will put domain models, not following like any kind of strict UML convention, and sometimes it's business domain model. Sometimes people go like further and put some class diagram there, or sequence diagram, whatever is required to really explain. Yeah. And here we decided to do like this our backlog, and I'll talk a little bit more about this. And this is actually our PD board. So when we don't have meetings, this is where is there. Like when I made this picture, it's actually I found out that I think I had 5 or 6 different boards kind of somehow ended up on that picture. Okay, let's. Oops. So this is an example how design is communicating. So it's, we implemented price list in last project. So you can see there's some diagrams, there's some text. Just by using different colors, it's always help. Also, what's happening is that you start with some ideas, you put it there, and then you want to change something, you go and talk to the board, as we say, and you may modify something, people using different colors, and somebody may pass by and say, no, are you crazy, are you going to implement that? So some discussion may happen, so it works quite well. Another one, saying how dynamic content, this diagram showing targeting framework. You can see this was done in version 6.1.1, and whatever is in red was added in next version, like 3 months later. This is interesting way to communicate requirements. What we're developing a quite complex feature, like many of you know that like bundles. When somebody wants to sell you TV and video player. Yeah? As we started working with it, we found out that actually it's quite a complex feature because you have fixed bundles, or you have dynamic bundles, and you allow shopper to select, like, I don't know, you're getting this game console and select 2 from 50 games. Yeah? Bundles also can be nested, there's the pricing, there's promotions, so it's quite complicated. So what our product management did, he decided to model bundles as requirements. So he printed some pages from some of our customers. This is Kudo, that tell us they are using our software. And of course in telco world you have a lot of bundles. And each sticker here represents actually description of the product with options. And 3 represent the bundle. So he basically mapped requirements in this way and then had a requirement discussion meeting around it. This board is in that area, and it was used by our QA to communicate. We're doing upgrade testing. So we develop in Java platform, so we support 3 or 4 application servers, free database. When you're doing upgrade, it's quite a lot of environments continue to test. We're using virtual machines, so probably 150 servers already currently running for different projects. And when they're doing testing, they need to really kind of organize somehow. And you can see that for each, and in each test, you at least have one application server and database, and we're also testing on different versions of Java. There's just too much information to keep in mind. So the user board, and this movable board, like both sides. So yeah. Right now, this is what it shows. I'm sure as soon as they finish, something else will be here. They specify IP address, like property file, where the application server go, what version of Java is going, and what build is installed. So when they're doing different type of testing, it's very useful. They also have some instruction on how to create new one. Cannot read from here. Yeah. Or you can actually see behind this TV over there. We also have put kind of magnetic sheets of whiteboard on cubicles. And our marketing group recently moved, and they decided, okay, to tell where everybody is sitting. Just another way to communicate. There's a lot of different information you can communicate. I'm sure that as soon as people learn where the new area is, they'll do something else. So, guys, if you have questions, please interrupt me.
First question is the entire development team located here in this building, or do you have some other teams that are outside of the building?
Has everybody heard the question? The question was, is everybody here, or we have outside team? We actually do. We're using offshore team. They in Kyiv, Ukraine, and of course we can communicate this way with them. So we do use Jira as well. We of course use Wiki, and sometimes we use just pictures of whiteboards.
Okay, so on a regular basis, you're taking pictures of the work and just putting them in Jira, and so that they are available.
Or just in email. It really depends on diagrams, like the main diagrams. We definitely send to them if they're working on this feature. And of course, for them, it's more difficult to work, and this is why any remote team is less productive than team on site. But we still all need to use them, just the nature of our business. We can't have everybody in one place.
And do they have some whiteboards also over there, or is it?
They do, but I believe less. Yeah, we definitely encourage them to be in one area and kind of sit close together. This other thing that we do, every time when we start a new project, people move. Like we always move people depending on what they're working on. And trying also that QA in development space, everybody sits together and works as one team.
Okay. There are some things like, for instance, designs or requirements that needs to be archived or that need to be memorized? Is there just not on the whiteboard at one point?
Mm-hmm.
After that, when your requirements arrive, you remove what's on the whiteboard. You need to remember that. How do you make this translation from the whiteboard to another medium?
The question was, do we have any requirements or documentation or design that needs to be saved and reused later? We do, of course, as everybody else. But you'll be surprised, again, we are not in a regulated environment. Your environment may be very, very different. But in our case, we were quite surprised at how little you actually need to reuse or save data. Yeah? For example, I don't think our status board is anybody's interested with months after things pass. We are not trying to investigate things backwards, back in the future, in the past. But we do have documentation, and also we consider developers who develop on our platform, our customers. We have professional services group, we have development, so we have both kind of end user documentation and develop documentation. So when we finish the project and yeah, for example, diagrams like that. When we finish developing this, I ask our technical writer to take a picture of this and put them in our documentation. So after we know, okay, this is what we implemented, this was designed, so we are trying to say. We're also now redoing our technical corner of website to communicate as much as possible this information to developers who are going to build on our platform. Any other question, guys?
Sorry. I have a question about kind of like say you've got one of those figures up there, and you know you're halfway through your quarter and you realize that it's the wrong figure. So you're gonna erase it and put another figure, or are you gonna cross it out and put the figure next to it? Like, are you gonna show that you made a change?
Depends on the owner of the board or who's owner of that information. It's really up to them to decide. Sometimes they want to show how far from target they are, or sometimes if it's relevant. Yeah. If this information is not relevant, like water under bridge, then we just put whatever its current design is. Yeah.
So a board has like an owner who would make that decision?
In general, yes, it's either a team who owns this information, or maybe some person.
Yeah, just going to say, so the main usage of our huge whiteboard seems to be mainly for like the domain model, and it's kind of semi-transient information. Was that kind of the intention of having a big massive whiteboard, or did that kind of you just said we'd have a big whiteboard and the usage kind of evolved?
The question was main usage of this big whiteboard for domain model, or have we had this intention from very beginning to use it for that, or there were other usages? Honestly, it was always my dream to have a huge whiteboard. And this was the first opportunity to implement it. And I'm a firm believer that you cannot have enough whiteboards. And I was proven right, because people were kind of really running out of space, and I was measuring how much space to allocate for a new feature, and people saying, no, you're going into my feature. So I think that the best way to do is to put whiteboards everywhere, and then watch your team to find best use of them. Because they will. And because it's the easiest way to communicate information, and especially for techies, like you would like to talk to whiteboards. But not only techie. For example, look at that whiteboard. I haven't included it to my presentation because it was filled in probably last week. We also run Vancouver Olympics online store. So this is a store with list of the priorities. What they need to do in warehouse, what they need to do here, what they need to do in the product interaction. So this is how they organize themselves. Again, communicate to that team. Yes, Steve?
What
question I have for you. This takes quite a culture to allow this kind of information, because most organizations would consider this information proprietary or confidential. When I'm looking here that, oh yes, this year you plan to do...
Okay, I should close it.
So you can go.
But this is information that, you know, even the not necessarily the financial, but even the architecture of the system, the features that are planned, that's frequently in most organizations considered confidential. I take it that to facilitate this, you really do need a policy of openness in your culture.
Yeah, that's really was one of the surprises when I joined 2 years ago. But if you think about be open, and it really goes from founders of the company who are still with the company. It's probably the most open company I ever worked for. We also made kind of our business success was based on this openness, because from very beginning we were giving our source code away to customers. We're not open source, but everybody who buys a license receives full version of source code, so you can't really hide much. And this openness really helped us. We're using a lot of open source. We are really trying to clearly communicate to our customers, not to lie to them what issue works, what doesn't, and so far it's working.
If I may add, Steve, did you ever saw a programmer who would use a piece of code or a piece of design prepared by another programmer?
I think most programmers would rather have some hot steel spike stabbed through their eye than reuse somebody else's software.
That's right. So it's completely safe.
You broke my heart. So broken. Okay. So organizing team. Very familiar sign is the Scrum boards. We have I'm using Scrum all across the company in a different way. Like this is we have product development Scrum, and we usually have very well organized board in product development. But we just finished big project and haven't really started another one, so I actually didn't have any board to take picture from. So this is a picture from our team who is doing development for Vancouver Olympic store. And so what they have here is priorities. And because they're running, this was coming up, so it is something that they were planning to do, but because we're running out of time and we cannot move date of Olympic Games, I tried, really tried hard. So they say I'm coming up not. So basically, it's a message to business users. Okay, don't expect this. Yeah? The other thing that quite interesting was they use here. They also write messages. If, for example, this task is related, I need to discuss this chat with Erica, who is a business user in customer support. Okay, and we know, okay, we group these stickers because these items require our visual designer. So Yanis, talk to Yanis. Okay. So it's really, you can do a lot just by organizing information on the board. And some people are quite creative with that. Also, yeah, okay, so this is kind of development team. So standard columns like to do in development, ready for QA, ready for code review, ready for QA, in QA, and done. In product development, we have triple done. Yeah, I think triple is the most to do. Interesting thing that most of these items actually they have duration. So people write a number like a Jira number in the top corner, so you can find it and track it that way as well. But we only work on something that is on the board. This is support. So in addition to developing groups that is preparing kind of scheduled, working on scheduled release, as with any kind of running sites, there's a number of issues that you just need to fix. Some of them are just kind graphic changes or some templates update or text update. Some of them, maybe some bad data were introduced, need to be fixed and so on. So this kind of, it's emergency room. And priority only one, because if it's an emergency, it should be only one priority. Yeah? That's something that's coming up that people, okay, may consider, but may not. One thing that is useful is if you have like related tasks. For example, all these tasks is related to French translation on our Hockey Canada store. That group them together. It's useful. This emergency room was actually dealing with 4 stores. We have Vancouver Olympic. We have special Vancouver Olympic store for torchbearers. We have Hockey Canada, and we have HBC Olympic store. So all of them were kind of mixed. So so I took this picture probably a week ago, and this is this board here. And like I think Friday, I noticed actually changing. They decided it's very difficult to keep track what sticker belongs to what store, so they separated it. So this is Vanok store, this is now Hockey Canada store, this is now HBC store. It's a little bit more organized. What I want to tell here is that always look as a better way to organize your board. Don't be afraid to move these stickers around. It's really quite easy to draw a new line. Whatever makes sense for you. One of our professional services teams are using electronic whiteboard. This is Jira. And I don't know how many of you know there's a good plugin in Jira called Green Pepper that really allows you to like present this Jira task in kind of as a sticker and drag and drop them, and quite cool thing. So they actually put a TV connected to the computer, and this is how you're doing their Scrum. Doing their Scrum around this board. And they have mouse and the moving stickers around. One of the problems that we're trying, one of the things that we're trying to do better is improve our product management process, improve our backlog handling. So, and this is what new process we introduced. I was really glad to read in Mary Poppendick's book, one of her latest books, we were selling it on our conference. She basically introduced the notion, everybody knows already, done. Yeah, so you have kind of done your development, done your testing, using triple done, because we also like to finish our documentation by that point. But she introduced the term ready. And she even said like, ready to be done. And it makes sense because product owners ask, by team, are you ready? It means, are your requirements ready? Don't have backlog to the level, defined to the level that actually developers can start working and do work quickly. And then when development done, product manager is asking them, are you done? Have you implemented everything that they asked for? Can you demo it? And can you test it? So going backward, basically what we want to do, we say, okay, we have a feature, and at the beginning, feature just has a name or nothing else, it's just a sticker. Then you can do marketing requirement document, then we break it into epics, and then epics. And epics, when they're ready to implementation, then ready for release planning, and then we have product council who ranks the user story. So this is kind of a flow of our backlog, because this is what we were having some problems with. We found out that when requirements are really well defined, we can do work very, very fast. And when in the middle of iteration you decide that you have a question and nobody has answer, all of a sudden it slows down. So this is our process, and this is how we decided to implement it on the board. So product management ready, and we put features there. This is epics. This is a user story. So everybody in development can see what's coming, what we're working on, and what is going down to development. So when in development iteration, what we do, we take this sticker and move it to as a user story to development Scrum board. This is board used by our documentation team. There's just 2 of them, but again, they decided that just to keep track of how documentation moving along, and so we have backlogs, they have assign and progress. In review, I mean, we have developers reviewing our documentation, or product managers reviewing documentation, and done. This is also Scrum board used by HR. At some point, as I was sending us long emails saying, okay, we have hiring Java developers, we are interviewing that many people, and I said, look, it's all good, but I really would like to know what's my chances to get somebody to on my team next week or next month. And the only way I can do is it's basically statistically. I say, if you have 5 good candidates on the last stage of interview, my chances are good. Otherwise, I don't know. So we introduced to HR, and of course they have concern, basically, don't want to display last names of candidates and put them in public areas. So they have some coding system, how to do it. But now I think it's working quite well for them. I know, Warren, I think your team is using it
every morning.
Every morning, so you can see them actually doing Scrum here. And columns are applicants, phone interviews, round 1 interview, round 2 interview, awaiting feedback, reference check, disqualified, hold, hire. And really helps them to organize. And because they were hiring for both our call center in Vancouver online store and development, they have actually, it's a double-sided board. So you have one for CSR, another for developing basically technical needs. So don't assume that only developers can use it. It's actually useful for everybody. And the last part is how you can organize yourself. So this is desk of our release engineer. And so this is his board. And we have a lot of boards that you can just hang on the wall, really small boards. So you can use it on your own, or you can take it with you and go and discuss with somebody. Very useful.
Hi, my name's Elliot, and what you're looking at is how we are organizing our build servers. So I use this board mostly personally to see where we're at and where we want to go. Now this may look like just a bunch of lines, stickers. To most people who look at it, it makes no sense whatsoever. But for me, what I see here is what I currently have. You see, I've got, these are the different servers that I use, right? And I see if they're on or not. So these stickers, each one of these is kind of a task which I want to get to, or what state it's in right now. Now I'd like to keep all of these, right? Because they're all actual physical boxes. And these are all sites that eventually I want to shut down. So my eventual goal, after I somehow look at this, will eventually end up with what you see down here. So I've got this file server and 3 more build servers as if. Now what you see in the middle here are actually what I use to indicate slaves or worker machines. So each one of these stickers, if it's an orange sticker, it means it already exists. If it's a yellow sticker, it doesn't exist yet. And these ones that are here are ones that I actually want to get rid of. So I've kind of put them at the bottom. So by the time I'm done here, what I end up looking at is all these arrows. So I have these arrows here. So this build 2 and build 3, right? If you follow this arrow, it'll eventually make its way underneath a bunch of stuff up to this box over here. Now, this is currently where these are running from. So this blue, for me, indicates that it's actually currently there. Now I want to get rid of eventually all these blues and just end up with boxes and these boxes underneath it with the orange pointing where things are actually going to. And that makes a lot of sense to me. It probably doesn't make sense to many people who are looking at it right now, but I guess that's why it's a personal sticky board. And thank you very much.
This is desk of our performance analyst. He's saying it's Al's desk, and things that he wants to do, what's done, logs that he needs to write. So it's quite useful. And at the end, we also have a complex message encoded into this. Anybody knows what it is? I'm just kidding. Questions, guys?
Sorry. Yeah, not a question, but I was wondering if maybe the videos could be put up on the website.
Yeah, we will. Eugene actually videotaping my presentation as well, and we usually put it.
The two that people that we couldn't hear. The two that you
Yes, we will put them as well. Yeah. Absolutely.
So even at the individual level, do you find that if you give the whiteboard, everybody tends to naturally want to use it and they start using it?
Yeah, like after the presentation, we can actually walk around, and you can see, because I just used some examples of I wasn't enough time to show all possible uses of whiteboard. Yeah, especially these whiteboards with the small ones that you can walk around. Like just recently, and I could probably show it somewhere, we had complex integration environment to test, integration between 4-hour stores and ERP system. And they basically wasn't clear for KA how to test it and how it's actually going to set it up, because multiple systems involved, networking and so on. So just basically just came in this area, or sitting on these couches, took this whiteboard with them and drew it.
So it's worth the investment up front even just to invest in everybody getting a whiteboard, and then they'll most likely use it.
Most likely, yes. Like I don't think you need to buy like hundreds of whiteboards and just try to store them. Like buy 5, okay, and see, depending on the size of your team, and see how they got it. And then you see that people are really fighting for them, buy a little bit more.
Michael, it seems here that part of the whiteboard culture is you've got a process defined, like from product management to your development team to your release management. It was almost, to me, the first thing that came to mind, it was a bit reminiscent of the way air traffic controllers hand off directing a flight when they pass through little pieces of wood from one to another. So it seems that part of this working is you have to, the process had to be in place, and this is just a way of enabling people to animate the process in a much more tactile manner.
Yeah, I don't think it's really that tied up with agile process. In reality, it can be used with everything, and it's just a way for you to communicate with other people, and in the process get organized, get people feedback, and it's also lower cost way to do it. Okay.
Does a system like this require a culture that allows you to deliver bad news?
You know what? When all of this was on this side, yeah, in this emergency room, it was about news. You see, like I don't need to even go to details. I can just pass by and see things moving. Yeah.
But if there is bad news, I would think if you own that information and you're the only one with it, you either have to feel confident that you can put it up there for everybody to see, or maybe you're not in a rush to put it up.
Well, it's always a decision, and we make this decision like every time when we communicate in any form. Yeah, you probably thinking about what to put in your email when it contains confidential information or some piece of good news or bad news. So it's basically you make this decision every time when you communicate. And this is just another form of communication. I don't think rules are different here.
Does this encourage trust, though, between team members?
I would say so. In general, like I think Scrum and Agile processes were very difficult to hide. Yeah, it's just the fact that you need to stand in front of your peers and answer these 3 questions every day. Okay. Very difficult to pretend that you're doing something useful when you don't. Yeah, I think it helps. Definitely helps with trust.
I had a couple questions. First, how big are your typical team sizes, and do you find that it works better or worse with smaller versus larger teams? And the second thing is, who gets to decide who gets to decide who's working on what? Is it the developers who are moving, taking ownership of things, or is it being assigned to them?
It's probably your question like a little bit out of scope of this presentation, but I think when you communicate, your audience determines like where you should put information, yeah? Because this is communication to entire company, yeah? This one also communication with entire company. This personal board is only communicating between, basically it's support myself. The same like when the big boss with design is communication to entire product development team and professional services team. While Scrum board, it's only communication really for that team and maybe people who are involved in managing that team. How big our teams depends, but we're trying not to have teams bigger than 7-8 people, which includes QA and product management. Usually it's 4 or 5, but changes depending on the project and what people are doing. We do have them in Jira. At least, let me explain how we're using Jira. We're using Jira for bug tracking, and we're using Jira for user stories. We're not using Jira for tasks. So after you put tasks on the board, like user story on the board, then the first thing the developers do, they take these stickers and put them as tasks that need to be done to implement that story. So we basically make decisions that tracking tasks in Jira will be overhead. You only need to know what story is and when it's in what state it is. But again, different teams in different organizations can make different decisions. No, not really, because in most cases you're not allowed to put sticker on the board without duration, if it's bug or user story. Yeah, task again, they're not keeping them in Jira. And if somebody puts stickers there, then during Scrum or any discussion, they say, okay, what's Jira number for this? Just write it down. Using, like, some people are really creative. Unfortunately, as I said, we don't have product development board to point to, but sometimes they're putting a priority on the in the corner, or an estimation in the corner. Actually, here, no, other board. You probably cannot see here, but those numbers in the corner, yeah. So the estimations that people think it's going to take. Yeah. Yes.
Let's say like a week from now, somebody came and said, "I'll pay you twice as much to come work at my company," but at my company there's no openness. I mean, how would you feel about being in a place now that you've experienced it?
It's a very tricky question. How much? I think it's every company has a culture, and culture are determined by people who work there, but also by their business model, by their history, and by their environment, by their regulations. So I don't believe that other single development process works for all companies. The same like for culture and communication. If you finding yourself that it's not like really common to kind of open your work to everybody, it doesn't prevent you from organizing your own space. It doesn't prevent you from sharing information inside the team, because team culture may be a little bit different than company culture. So I still would encourage you to try to create your own culture, what works for your team.
When you hire somebody who has no, like somebody you hire, let's say into marketing or HR or into sales department, who's not used to development sort of culture, what is the feedback that you get about these board culture, and how long does it take for them to buy into the system?
Well, I don't know, it's also, you know, like when company has a culture, they tend to hire people who are kind of close to the culture, just for interview kind of process probably works that way, or somebody recommends other people. But this, for example, is marketing communication, and sales and marketing saying how we make everybody aware where our customers are, how we make customer kind of more visible to developers, so they know the pain and they know when help required, when this is a big deal coming pipeline, and everybody's like basically all hands on deck. So this was the way to do it. When they implemented this, we have a staff meeting. Usually we have 2 weeks, every 2 weeks we have staff meeting here, and they walk us through it. basically did everybody training on this. For human resources, it actually took me a while to make them do Scrum. And at some point I gave up, but they started to do it and they found this useful for them. So they're actually doing it every day now. Yeah. Sorry.
Just curious, have you been able to see a measurable benefit that matters in terms of the company's bottom line from being able to implement this whiteboard culture?
So some old data that we use because we raised whiteboard, yeah? No, we haven't collected data, but you're researching us, so maybe it'll come from you.
Yeah, part of Scrum, there's the retrospective and trying to find how a process is working, and things that aren't working are called impediments, and then you can have an impediment board. And the really sneaky way of doing that is to slap it right in front of the big boss's office so that he's seeing it every day, and the things that need to be removed, the impediments that need to be removed. Is that something that you also have here? Is there a whiteboard for that? Or
some teams are actually putting, they had a corner, I remember at some point, use corner of the board to put whatever they decide improvements points should be from last retrospective. I saw a team doing that. For one big retrospective, like 2 years ago, for a very unsuccessful project before we started to implement Agile properly in a different way. Then, as preparation for retrospective, we actually did history of all iterations. And basically we mapped, okay, this iteration this happened, this iteration that happened, really, and this board was around for a long time, just because nobody needed it, but then somebody took it and used it for something else.
I don't think it's about 7 o'clock, maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then we should wrap.
Yeah, and we can walk around if you're interested.
Just with all your whiteboards around, I was just wondering if you found a good solution for cleaning them. Because I know some of the cleaning products have an offensive odor to people. So I was just wondering what you guys do.
Well, we're trying not to clean them and just reuse. But what we found out is we really want to clean a board. There's this spray and nobody complain on odor, but you shouldn't use this standard cleaner that comes with whiteboard. Or you use just paper towels and this is spray and you can clean it and reuse again. Yeah. The main thing, don't use permanent markers on it. All of us had experience with it. Okay, one last question, and then people can walk around. Okay, thanks for coming. It was great having you here.